All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to get into talking about Davante Adams once again and just kind of talk about, the possible teams that he can end up on if the Raiders trade him. I mean, it's inevitable, I think, but let's kind of just go through it. So these are some of the teams that it seems like they have some connection to Davante. Now, it doesn't mean that, ultimately he's going to end up on one team. But these are some of the teams that he could end up on. Now, I could tell you there are teams here that I would knock off immediately. Like the Chiefs, I think have the Chiefs and the Ravens. I shouldn't say the Ravens, but the Chiefs, I think they probably are least likely to get him, just because within the division. Now, if they offer the Raiders a package that they can't refuse, then that's different. But for me, I feel like it's hard for me to see the Raiders trading him within the division. Now, with some of these other teams here. Now, let's go back to the Chiefs. If he does go to the Chiefs, this helps them tremendously because of what's happened to them the last, 4 weeks. Marquise Brown ruled out for at least the entire regular season. Then you have Rashee Rice getting hurt against the Chargers this past week. They're thin right now. They need all the help they can get. And if they got Davante Adams, to pair him up with Patrick Mahomes, that would be really special. But I don't think that's going to happen. Now, with some of the other teams here, the Commanders is an interesting one. Because you look at what the Commanders have been able to do so far this year. Right now, they are 3-1. And their offense these last couple weeks, now you could say they've gone up against bad defenses, but offense looks really good right now with Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels is playing not just at an offensive rookie of the year level, but an MVP level. So you bring Davante Adams in here and pair him up with Terry McLaurin. That would really elevate this offense to new heights. And right now, they look like the best team in the division. And, I did say before the year, I didn't give them that many wins. And I was like, I feel like this one could come back to bite me, and it definitely is. But you know what? It's a credit to Jayden Daniels. And the reason why I had them so low in terms of win total is because of their defense, and I just wasn't a fan of the Dan Quinn hire. And it's a rookie, and Jayden Daniels is a rookie. But, right now he's kind of, doing what RG3 did in his rookie year, shocking people. Remember when RG3, his first game, went on the road and beat the Saints in New Orleans? Who would have predicted that? Not that many people. So, but getting Davante Adams, that would really help out this offense. And, that would only accelerate the growth of Jayden Daniels. So, and then, some of the other teams here, the Steelers do need another wide receiver. Now, it might not necessarily be Davante Adams. They might go out and try to get somebody else. I know as a Giant fan, there's some rumors that maybe Darius Slayton or Jalen Hyatt could be traded. So, maybe one of those guys ends up getting traded to one of these teams. It seems like the three teams that were kind of ahead of the pack, or at least I think it was on one of Schefter's recent tweets, was the Bills, the Steelers, and the Jets. Now, when it comes to the Steelers, like I said, they do need another wide receiver. Davante Adams will help tremendously. Look at how Justin Fields played this past week. Now, the Colts defense is not great, but, you bring in Davante Adams to pair with George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, that running game gets going. And Fields, I think throwing the football, he's been impressive. Some of the throws he made in the Colts game, watching some of the highlights, it was pretty good. And maybe the Steelers did find their guy. As long as he keeps playing like that, they might have their guy. He definitely looks like a different quarterback compared to how it was in Chicago. So we'll see what happens. If I mean, again, I think I think that I don't know if the Steelers are going to get him, but I think they'll probably end up getting maybe another receiver elsewhere, possibly. But we'll see. They got a big Sunday night game with the Cowboys, so we'll see how that goes. The Ravens, I said that was a team that maybe could use him. I mean, you look at their receivers. I mean, with the Steelers, you got George Pickens. I mean, the Ravens got Zay Flowers, but, they paid Rashad Bateman. They also got Nelson Aguilar. I would like to see them add another receiver. I feel like that is the missing piece with the Ravens right now, is at least another receiver. Because, running the football, they're okay. With Derrick Henry, with Justice Hill. They still don't have Keaton Mitchell, and it's going to take some time before he comes back, because I saw an update with him. It's still going to be a little bit, but you get him back, and you got a three-headed monster coming out of well, technically a four-headed monster with Lamar Jackson whenever he runs the football, too. But they need another pass catcher. And Davante Adams on this Ravens team with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, well, that would be a three-headed monster right there. And then if they can get Mark Andrews going. But, yeah, maybe because of money concerns, I think that might be the reason why the Ravens don't end up getting him. I don't know. We'll have to see. The Bills, the Bills right now, they don't have a number one wide receiver. I mean, Josh Allen's kind of spreading the ball around, and I don't think having Davante Adams really would have made a difference in that game on Sunday against the Ravens. It's one of those games that you kind of just you deal with. It happens. I still think the Bills, they could do okay without a number one wide receiver, a true number one wide receiver, because they have Josh Allen, and Josh Allen was playing really well up until that point. I mean, now let's see what happens when they take on the Texans this week, when they go up against their former number one wide receiver in Stephon Diggs. But, yeah, that was, look, that shows you that the Ravens are very good, and, you got to give them credit for that win. The Bills, they're going to bounce back. But that would be a good spot for him. Him and Josh Allen working together, that would be great. But I don't think that's going to happen. So then you got Dallas. Dallas would be interesting because really outside of CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks is hurt, and they really don't have a number 3 wide receiver either. You got Jacob Ferguson, who's a good tight end, but also Dallas really can't run the ball. Dallas, Dallas is a weaker team this year. They don't really have a threat outside of CeeDee Lamb. And you take CeeDee Lamb out of the game, well, who's going to beat you? The Giants, they had an opportunity to win that game last week, but that touchdown to CeeDee Lamb really made all the difference. So, and now Dallas is going up against the Steelers. Again, that's a big Sunday night game. Looking forward to it. But, that would be a good fit because you'd have CeeDee Lamb and Davante Adams. Those are 2 top 5 receivers on the same team. Now, I don't know if they'd be able to, again, like the Ravens, I don't know if they'd be able to afford him. But, it'd be a good fit. Helps his passing game. And also, the Cowboys still have not elevated Dalvin Cook. And again, you could say you're being way too optimistic on Dalvin Cook, but I definitely think he could be better than what they have right now in this running game. When are you going to elevate him? They signed him, and he's still on the practice squad. They say he looks good, but you're telling me he wouldn't be better than Zeke right now? I don't know. And then the final 2 teams, you got the Saints and the Jets. And the reason I left them out until here is because Davante Adams has a desire to play with the quarterback that he's already played with. You got Derek Carr with the Saints, Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. Now, it seems like the Jets, they're all in on getting Davante Adams. So I think that's ultimately where he'll end up. And that would help out the Jets tremendously because, Rodgers is still trying to get on the same page with Garrett Wilson. Now, you could say an argument can be made, well, you bring in Davante Adams, you have Allen Lazard. Well, is Garrett Wilson now your wide receiver 3? I mean, you're trying to get on the same page with him. Now you bring in a receiver that you have a rapport with, along with the receiver that you already have a rapport with in Allen Lazard. Now what happens with Garrett Wilson? I mean, I think this helps out Garrett Wilson because then everybody's attention is going to be on Davante Adams, and then Garrett Wilson is, going to be matched up in single coverage, and you take advantage of that. But they got to get on the same page. I mean, that play, I think it was the second to last drive of the game against the Broncos. Garrett Wilson doesn't turn around for the ball. He catches that in stride. Jets probably win the game by 2 points. But, well, then again, Zerline's got to make the field goal. He missed, the 50-yarder at the end. But I would love to see Davante Adams, go to the Jets just because, again, I would like to see Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams play together at least one more time. But that's just me. If he goes to the Saints, that would be interesting. Again, I think he'd play well because him and Derek Carr did work well together, even though Derek Carr wasn't great in the one and only year that him and Davante Adams were teammates in the NFL. But Davante had a really good year in 2022. And it would be interesting what the Saints would give up. Like, would they trade? I mean, I don't think would they trade Olave? I don't think so. I think maybe they would trade Rashid Shaheed. I don't know. But that would definitely help out the passing game. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Jets and the Saints right now are both 2-2. I mean, with the Saints, I mean, they probably, because they're in the NFC, they have an easier path, I would say, to, make a run. Because the Jets, I mean, the AFC is just, it's tough. I mean, maybe it's not as tough as people would initially have thought, including myself, because you look at some of these teams, a lot of them are beatable. Really, all of them are beatable. So, including the Jets. So, let me know what you guys think, though. Who do you think has the best chance of landing Davante Adams? I think right now you got to say it's the Jets. I mean, that's who he's been linked to, for a while now. So we'll see what happens, but he's going to get traded at some point. And it's unfortunate because the Raiders right now, they are 2-2, but are they really going to do anything? Probably not. Minshew hasn't played great, even though, again, they're 2-2. But we'll have to wait and see. So before we go to break, I just want to remind you guys once again, tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the super chat button in the chat. Click on that. Create a super chat of any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. I will acknowledge it, and it just makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So, when we come back from our next break, we will finish up the remaining Week 4 matchups that we didn't get to. We'll start off with the Browns and the Raiders game, so we'll continue our Raiders talk. We'll talk about that, as well as Nick Chubb returning to practice. So we'll get into all that when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.